This episode is supported by Fulton Commons, and if you're looking for a place to co-work, look no further. It is a super cute space with lots of light, and it's great for individuals and organizations. Like us, CityCast is there, and I love to change up my workspace, and you can do that so easily just within the building. Like, I like to start out with a cup of coffee, looking out the window at the trees, then pop over to these bright pink booths, and then I end my day tucked into a desk at the library-inspired corner. But what's truly unique about Fulton Commons is the shared commercial kitchen on site. So for co-working members, this means lots of food-related events and maybe a taste of Pittsburgh's next big product. And for professionals, this is a perfect place to start or grow your business. There's over 8,500 square feet of kitchen space, and Fulton manages the kitchen infrastructure. There's access to equipment, storage, prep and cleaning areas, everything you need, whether you're a baker, prepared meal provider, food truck operator, or doing something else that's super cool in the food space. Visit FultonCommons.com to learn more and request a tour.
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, Morcia, Butterwood, The Vandal, Senti, Spirit, Scratch & Co., Driftwood Oven, and Cucina Vitale. No, this is not a list of my favorite weekend haunts in Pittsburgh, but it comes darn close. These restaurants have one thing in common. They all opened in 2015, which means they are celebrating 10 years serving delicious food here in Pittsburgh. Today, we're with the Post-Gazette's dining critic to talk about what made these spots so special in the first place, how they fundamentally changed Pittsburgh's dining scene, and why they are still at the top of all of our lists. It's Tuesday, December 9th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Before we get into some of the best 10-year-old restaurants here in Pittsburgh, I am with producer Sophia Lote to encourage you to become a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor.
Yes, our campaign is still rolling. We are on day 2, and we are so excited to welcome more listeners as our CityCast Pittsburgh neighbors. It's so much fun.
Yes, and a huge thank you to our newest CityCast Pittsburgh neighbors, Leslie B., Jess D., Mary M.F., Thomas L., and Kelly F. Thank y'all for coming to the neighborhood.
Yes, thank you so much. You know, next year, 2026, we want our city to feel like a place where people know each other better, care more about each other. And our way of making that happen is with our Neighbors program. And honestly, it's just baked into everything we do, all of our content. This episode really hits that for me because so many of the restaurants you're about to talk about are in Lawrenceville. And I'm pretty close to that neighborhood. And it's really cool, you know, now I can walk down Butler Street and get new recommendations, but also just learn a little bit more about how these restaurants got started. And I think that definitely makes me feel that sense of connection when I can tell like the front of house staff just care so much. And now that I've known that they've been here for 10 years, I'm like, that really shows, you know, they do really great food, but also they are probably a space the neighborhood loves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of like, it's one of the joys of doing this job. I hope you feel this way too, that like, not only do we get to like talk about the cool stuff, but we get to learn about its backstory, which, I mean, I feel like I still learn that stuff constantly, even though I've been here a few years longer than you.
I bet, yeah.
But still, like, I mean, a million things preceded me, and we get to kind of dive into those all the time. If you care about listening to local stories like this, I really can't recommend enough signing up to be a member. We call our members neighbors because you literally are the people like us who want to celebrate Pittsburgh and care about the nitty gritty, the backstory, what something used to be, whether you're a lifer maybe, or, I mean, you might be a newcomer. We hear that a lot, that you're looking to get more involved and meet people here in Pittsburgh. One of the biggest benefits, I think, to our Neighbors program is the Neighbors Only events, because everyone who comes to that are people like that. Like, you want to get involved, you want to meet new people,
right.
and you want the receipts. You want to know how a thing got to be a thing.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, our neighbors, I mean, a lot of the times, they have really good recommendations. You might learn some more secrets that we don't know about yet. So if all of that sounds fun, tap in at membership.citycast.fm. You get a bunch of other stuff, too, for the price of just $10 a month, or you can save $100 a year. So membership also comes with a beanie when you sign up during this campaign.
Just this week.
Yeah, exclusive. It is black. It says CityCast Pittsburgh on it. It's very warm. You also get ad-free listening on the podcast. And, we've talked a little bit about events. We are doing a holiday show here at our office space, Benedum Trees Building on 4th Avenue.
10th floor.
Yes, December 19th from 9 to 1. So this is open to everyone, but if you show up and you're a member, you get to enter my very special cookie raffle. I've been baking for a lot of the members-only events, and I think my cookies are pretty good. I think some of you all agree with me. So if you want like an extra special box, sign up and show up.
I agree with Sophia. I made personal requests for the cookies that are going to be at this holiday gathering because Sophia's been cooking for us for long enough now. I have favorites, and I'm very lucky to work with Sophia so closely that I get a taste of this every so often. So this is your chance to taste Sophia's cookies. They're so good.
Thank you. And I do talk a lot about them on the show, too. So I think it's all related.
Totally. And there's going to be some other prizes available. For example, a beautiful charcuterie board from Mars Design Studio. We've been recommending them in our gift guides this season. The daughter of our trivia master, Kevin Gavin. So it really is a big family over here. We want to share some of this local love, like the stuff that we put into the show every day with y'all, our members, and anyone who wants to drop by. Again, that's December 19th, 9 to 1 on the 10th floor of the Benedum Trees Building downtown. But more perks, more for you if you become a member today before that event.
Yes. One more time, membership.citycast.fm. Don't wait. Sign up now. We'll see you at the holiday party. But for now, what's been around for 10 years? Let's go.
I am with Hal B. Klein. Welcome back to CityCast.
I'm so excited to be back here in this studio for the first time, which is beautiful.
Yeah, you're with us downtown.
Yeah.
Thank you for making time. You have been so busy this year working on this whole series about the class of 2015, restaurants that started back then and are still going strong. What was it about 10 years to you that was so important as kind of a milestone moment?
This started last year a little bit when I decided randomly to review Morcia after going for a couple times and realizing, man, we always focus on these new places, but what about places that have been around, that have been doing things?
And have evolved.
And what is that question? And then I started looking at places that I was like, oh, Morcia turns 10 next year. Who else turns 10? And I just had this moment where I was like, man, a lot of places that I still love, that Pittsburgh still loves, are celebrating their 10th anniversary. So what does that mean? And that's when I decided I wanted to look into that, and we love a tight, decade retrospect.
True. Yeah.
So it all made a lot of sense.
It feels like the right kind of prompt for a writer. I mean, what does it mean then to you? Because you've been eating at all these spots all this time. Were they on heavy rotation for you still after all these years, or were there some surprising revisit moments as well?
Most of them were still places that I still loved, and it's really interesting because I think a lot of restaurants, statistics vary, but about half of the restaurants that open close after 5 years or before 5 years.
Yeah.
And only about 3 in 10 make it to 10 years.
Which is wild when you think about how many restaurants that I would call institutions in the city of Pittsburgh. They've been around forever. Or we think of them as having been here forever, which is funny because some of the ones on your list, I thought of that too. I really didn't realize they were only 10 years old.
Yeah, it's they're only 10 years old, but also you think about other places that seem like they've been around forever that haven't been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it becomes this thing of what was so special about this year that made it so interesting and important for Pittsburgh. And I think what happened is this was the nexus. So things were building before then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had places that opened before that are now closed, like Dinette, which I always miss, and Cure. But you also have places like Piccolo Forno that laid a framework in Lawrenceville, right? That is now celebrating its 20th year. Round Corner Cantina that was open, Allegheny Wine Mixer. And then you have all these other restaurants that had been bubbling up. And then suddenly that mixes with this era where there's an interest in regionalization in national media. And 2015 is a year that Pittsburgh, with all these places that are opening now, starts to get this real buzz and national attention, which I think gives Pittsburgh a bit of maybe confidence and excitement.
Yeah.
Wow, people are, that we knew about already, right? If you've been here, you're yeah, of course, there's cool stuff happening. It's been happening, but now it's really happening.
I think that's the thing, right? If we talk about it in terms of now, we laugh about making lists on like Bon Appetit or National Geographic, things like that. But 2015, it turns out, was sort of the beginning of that moment.
Yeah, it's, every Pittsburgh is getting all this attention. Zagat names it. It's Food City of the Year, which was misinterpreted a little bit. I think people even now are like, it was rated the #1 food city in all of America. And it's
quite what it meant.
Not quite what they were saying, but what it was saying is pay attention to the city because of all the places in the country and all the regional restaurants. This city is exciting right now. And that's what that story was really saying, which I think was like very, very accurate back then. Yeah. And I think that, looking back 10 years later has proved very true, especially considering all these places that have opened and all the people that worked at these places that are now doing their own thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing in the restaurant industry or the service industry generally is that like it's a really big family, especially in a place like Pittsburgh, where if you have a good experience in one spot or you grow and evolve and you want a new challenge, like usually you stay in the family to some extent. Like you might have a new restaurant, but you still collaborate with that other group that brought you up. Like it's a really cool atmosphere in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that was so true in 2015 and still remains true now is that the competition in this city is about making yourself better, but there is a camaraderie that you don't see in a lot of places that I think really pushed everyone in this year, 10 years ago, and through now to really keep it going. I can't remember when this article came out. It was one of the Toronto newspapers because it got to a point where like people were writing like the exact same story about Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And this one, it was 2 reporters and they did the thing that you should always do when you're visiting cities, which is hang out with bartenders and talk to bartenders. And at that time, boomerangs were like a real thing too. So you would go to a bar if they knew you or a restaurant, you'd sit there. And they'd say like, oh, where are you going next? And you're like, oh, I'm going to go to Bar Marco next or whatever. And like, oh, let me batch a cocktail and bring it for you. And so they got sent on this like boomerang adventure. And it brought them into like the real depths of like the Pittsburgh camaraderie. And like that ended up becoming the thesis of like their article. And I was like, this is the one that actually really gets it right.
Yeah.
Because that's what was really going on right then, which was like, oh, stop here and like bring this drink to them. And, they'll be like, oh, wow, you're from out of town. Like, go here.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that was so exciting and so vibrant at that point in time 10 years ago that really pushed a lot of this forward.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, can I still do that? The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. You can still go to some of these places and be like, where should I go next? Or they might ask you that and you can still play that game. Another thing I think we should just like stop and think about is that 10 years would be a milestone for any period in time, but like it also includes the pandemic, which was just like earth shattering to our restaurant community.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild that so many restaurants had to go through so much during that time. And
a lot of them did not survive.
A lot of them didn't survive. And these restaurants were all hitting that 5-year mark, which is when, statistically about half of them wouldn't survive. And, obviously not every restaurant that opened in 2015 made it.
Yeah, certainly. You are cherry picking the ones that did and are still thriving.
But a lot of them, and a lot of the ones that we were talking about in 2015 are still around, which is very impressive because that doesn't happen. I'm working on my year-end closing list right now, and it's like, oh man, these places,
Yeah.
that should have been around.
Hal Klein's like RIP in memoriam list. Yeah. I love it every year. I mean, I love it and I hate it.
Really sad. And so for them to like make it through the pandemic, one, I think shows the loyalty that they built in the 5 years leading up to that. But also the drive of the restaurant owners that open these places and the people that work there. One thing that really links a lot of them together is they retain staff, which to me says this is a good place to work, which
Pittsburgh cares about a lot.
And it's important because I think, especially going through a pandemic when everything is uprooted and everything changes and a lot of people leave the industry, to be able to like open up and still have a lot of that same staff there really says a lot about the working environment at these restaurants.
Today's show is sponsored by Aura Frames. A few years ago, I was going through a big suitcase of photos from my great aunt's house. A ton of them were from the holidays, so I digitized them all and added a bunch to mine and my mother's Aura frame. When I see them, y'all, I can smell my Ninny's corn casserole, my Aunt Michelle's truly hideous but delicious chocolate pie. And what I remember, what I can see on the screen is the laughter and just how goofy and comfortable we all were. It's like having this beautifully lit scrapbook going all day long, just full of memories, a highlight reel of Christmases gone by. And the Aura frame really is very easy to use. You just download the Aura app, connect to Wi-Fi, and start adding your pictures. I've got a ton of recent ones on mine, but it's been really fun to put up old family photos too, because my kid really loves looking at this thing. And he'll ask me, Mama, who is Dad? And it's so much fun to talk about these people who really loved me and would have loved him, and tell him about how great and weird and wonderful they all were. For a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames. That's the one I have. It's been named #1 by Wirecutter. Use promo code CityCast at checkout. That's Aura Frames, AURA frames.com, promo code CityCast. The deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames do sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. The idea of learning a new language can be scary. I felt overwhelmed by that. I bet you have too. I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and studies show that up to 90% of people trying to learn a new language give up. 90%. Fortunately, Babbel's built so that it's really easy to get started and really easy to stick with it. They understand that people learn differently. So maybe you can dive into a podcast on Babbel when you don't feel like a quick lesson, or you can speak out loud to get practice in, or you can explore courses based on specific topics and even create your own customized review lists, all within the Babbel app. Babbel has made learning a language all about small steps with real wins and progress you can actually track and feel. Bite-sized lessons that fit easily into your daily routine and are also easy to remember. Just 10 minutes a day is enough to start seeing real results. I've been learning Spanish with Babbel, and it's helped when I've traveled in Mexico, and it helps me eavesdrop on my son and my girlfriend when they speak Spanish to try to fool me. No más, mi corazón. However you learn best, by listening, speaking, reading, or writing, Babbel adapts to your style and keeps you motivated with personalized learning plans, real-time feedback, and progress tracking. And right now, here's a special limited time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Well, I feel like this has been enough suspense. Let's talk about some of these spaces that you profiled for the Post-Gazette. Take us through the list. What did you love from the class of 2015?
Yeah, so a lot of this is centered around Lawrenceville, which we should also mention.
Yeah.
Is that another reason this happened is Lawrenceville was much more affordable in 2015.
Yeah, a lot of these restaurant spaces were able to get some good real estate at a much better price than they would today.
Yeah, so like Spirit, which is on my mind right now, they're part of this. And they got this in whole Moose Lodge, right? Mm-hmm. This former Moose Lodge, which is prime real estate space. And they were able to turn it, it started with this like fun kind of club-like atmosphere, but also the much loved Pizza Boat, which was a wood-fired pizza operation that they still pull out every once in a while, incorporating that. And the thing that I really love about that is like their growth is so deliberate. And then in the last couple of years, they took this like huge risk. They're like, we're going to redo the rooftop. We're going to open a separate restaurant because people are a little confused about like, what is this place right now? Like, can I come here for food? Is there a sound check? What's going on? Is there an event? So they just opened an entire separate restaurant space they call the Pizzeria. And they opened their rooftop space, which is beautiful, that now is going to be closed for the next couple of months because of winter.
Yeah.
But I love this expansion because it really centers the food in a way that, talk about the pandemic, they put this whole tent up because they couldn't do events. And it was all climate controlled. And it was the first time you really went to Spirit and went like, oh, wow, like their culinary minds are like, they've always been doing it, but they're really getting a chance to shine right now.
It was one of the first restaurants I went out to during the pandemic. And I say restaurant, but because it felt like a departure from what I knew Spirit to be, which at that point was like a place to go dancing and get a good cocktail and have midnight spaghetti. And then I think it had a white tablecloth. Like it was fancy.
Yeah, they were like, this is what we can do right now. And, you know, their vibe has always been fun, hospitality. And so they're like, let's do this. And they would do this. You'd see this every once in a while when they would do special dinners and they'd really turn it out. Or I've been to a couple of wedding receptions there. And I'm like, man, this food is really good. Like, shout out Spirit Catering. So that was one of those places that I was like, wow, this change is so big as compared to a place. There's no theme also. There's no like, this is the thing that made these restaurants survive, other than they're just speaking from their heart and doing it themselves. So you go to a place like Senti, which has
on Lower Lawrenceville, kind of close to that Doughboy statue, for example.
Which has always been refined and elegant and just continues to go that way.
Yeah, talk about white tablecloth. It is always white tablecloth. Very high touch. And like really, I would call it like upscale Italian food. I recommend their lasagna to everyone because it is so light and so many layers and so delicious.
And that's been a menu staple since it opened.
I know, it's never gone off,
which
I appreciate because it is one of my like top 5 comfort foods in the city.
Yeah, and I know like we love newness and we love, you know, like exciting things. And Senti, you know, has always been seasonal too. So there's always
something new on the menu.
New on the menu. Their stuffed pastas change all the time, but they always have these dishes that are like stalwarts. And then Franco, the owner, you know, talk about like front of house personality.
I have never been there that he hasn't come to the table at least once or twice.
And he reads a table better than I think anyone in Pittsburgh. He knows like he could see people on like an early date, you know, he knows how to make it special. But also last time I was there, he was backslapping with some Italians, speaking in Italian. And it's really incredible. And their wine program's incredible.
Yeah. And they also like, I mean, just if you like something different, they have a wine, like it's not draft, but it's like kind of like getting a wine on draft. It's very different.
Yeah. They had this wine machine, which back in 2015, I think was very special and cutting edge and still isn't very common, where they can take these like bottles of wines that they would normally not pour by the glass because once it's open, you know, you don't want to like have it sit around for a while. And it puts in a neutral, I think it might be nitrogen. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a way of preserving the wine.
That you can just like, boom, pop it out. So that's there. And then a couple doors down is Morcia. And you look at Morcia and like the slow evolution that really coincides with Nate Hobart, who is executive chef and now a partner there. He was Justin Severino, who founded Cure, like his right-hand man, like young wizard. He was like, I don't know, 23 or 24 when he started, but Justin is at Cure. And has now really taken over the place with Hillary Prescott Severino, who runs front of house and also has great wine. And it's another place where it's like very similar in a lot of ways to when it opened, but like very different in like the subtle changes that it's made throughout the years.
Yeah, their bar program has changed a lot too. Like when they first opened, gosh, I think they were like trying to make themselves like a destination for gin and tonics, which are still on the menu, but it's not like the main thing anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, and I think it's something I actually miss, is that back in 2015, I think there was a little bit more you can just drop in at places and like have a drink or two at a bar, which is like really what Morcia was designed for, right? Like,
I mean, their whole architecture is set up for that.
Yeah, and it was, you know, when they opened, it was like, that was really what they envisioned, was stop in, have a gin tonic, have a couple of small plates, go on with your night, and then stop in, have a nightcap, a couple snacks, whatever. But because of the way Pittsburgh, you know, like a lot of times restaurants define themselves and then consumers define.
Yeah. They're like, that's cute.
How it's going to be used,
this is
right?
how it's going to be.
And so in the beginning when Morcia opened, like there were no chairs in the front of the bar. They were like, this is a standing bar. This is what happens in Spain. Like just stand up, have some drinks, get cider from the cider arm and go on with it. But people were like, no like this is like a Justin Severino restaurant. Like we want to come here. It's a destination. Your dining room's sold out. We want to sit. We want to like have all the things.
And it is. Morcia is like the place I know where a lot of my friends like celebrate something.
Yeah. And it turns out that that's what, and you know, they were smart enough to go, okay, well, we're going to have the menu designed like this. And maybe this is actually a place that people are going to come. They want to sit down and they want to share a whole bunch of food. And that's how it's really been used. And so they've worked on and expanded on that. But there are dishes from opening day that are still on there.
Yeah, the one that occurred to me was maybe the oxtail.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had that just about every time I've ever stepped through the door.
Yeah. It remains one of the top dishes in Pittsburgh,
Is
right?
it? Okay.
You know, so good. And then you look at a place also in Lawrenceville, like the Vandal, that has matured so much, you know?
They're leagues different than they were when they opened their doors.
You know, they open as a spinoff of Bar Marco, basically, with that same, like, we can do it. We're just going to, like, bust through and it's going to be fun spirit. And it was great from the beginning, but it changed so much. And I remember, like, there's so many times where I would, like, think about, like, writing about the Vandal or doing about the Vandal, and then it would just, like, switch completely to, like, something else. And in the last couple of years, you know, starting again with the pandemic, but really in the last few years, you know, they redesigned the space. They had, you know, again, it's like sometimes places open and they're scrappy.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is as much as we can do with the design. And then years later, they're like, oh, we proved this. And now we can really...
We have a few more resources. We can do a little bit more.
And refine the design, refine the menu. And it is just become just like the loveliest place. It's really and truly a place now that it's like, it feels mature, it feels settled, but it still feels like interesting. It feels very engaged. And I'm like, man, it's nice to see that, you know?
And I feel like they're one that's had a lot more changes with the folks running it as well. Like the chef's changed a few times. I think front of house has changed as well. And with that has come new character every time.
Yeah. And like the character changes. They got a liquor license a few years ago, which has really changed things. They've managed to like incorporate some late night stuff into it now, which is...
I've been to a few private events there too, and really like that is something special because like, all the tables disappear. It kind of becomes like this standing room club atmosphere, at least the ones that I went to. I went to a baby shower there once, which was a totally weird, fun vibe. I think that was during their pandemic era, so that may not be the norm, but it was still like, I feel like I've seen them wear so many different types of hats, you know?
Yeah.
And do a great job with all of them.
And they've always done it in a way that hasn't dispelled like the energy of what it was, but has always made it always makes sense, generally always makes sense. But I love like the iteration it is now. Like I love it. I think it's so warm and such an antidote to like what is happening on Butler Street. You know, that's become like a real party corridor. And another one of those is Butterwood Bake Consortium, which is open late.
I mean, they were the
cakes.
Spot to go get dessert. If you were out like at a bar, you were having a nice dinner or whatever, like if nothing on the dessert menu spoke to you, you knew you had an option just up the street.
Yeah. And I'd say of all of the places that opened that year, if you were like, oh, the bespoke cake place that sells cake for a lot of money,
it is very expensive.
It's still going to be around and popular.
It was very decadent, but they also like the serving sizes are enormous.
Yeah. And they're open pretty late too, which is kind of cool. So they're open all day, you can go in early, and then they're open late. And there aren't a lot of places you can go to that, like, especially if you don't imbibe or just don't want to that night and you want to just go somewhere and cap your night off with something like dessert that's, you know, always really good.
And doesn't include alcohol, which I think is unique.
Yeah, it's nice to like have that. And it's, you know, it says something that it's managed to last this long. It's also just like a cool space to just like sit inside.
It's very cozy. Like I always think of it kind of in like the season now, like the winter when I need something warm to like kind of pep me up before the end of the night.
Yeah. And it's also, you know, it's interesting because like when I've been in there, you see like, even on like an evening, like it could be like one person sitting solo reading a book, which is one of my favorite things to do, and then a couple on a date, and then some friends gathering, and you see it's being
Folks
used by
coming
all
in
sorts
and
of different
out.
people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
taking
they
some
also
cake to go.
Yeah, and they do a great business too of like selling stuff to go, which I think is something that 10 years ago restaurants didn't think about that much. When I was talking to the owner of Senti, he actually mentioned this. You know, he's like, 10 years ago, I never would have done takeaway or DoorDash or things like that. But
boy, he sure does now because I've ordered that many a day.
Yeah. And, you know, like, I don't know, I have a lot of feelings. We could talk about that another time.
Some food travels, some food doesn't. Senti can.
Yeah. But I mean, and like, that's great, you know, and it's great if that's going to help them stay in business too. Like, that's really wonderful.
And you also focused on pizza too, which I think is fun. Driftwood Oven, like, did not start in the most conventional way.
Yeah, I mean, my life is a focus on pizza. So Driftwood Oven started 2015 as a mobile operation, and literally, you know, just drifting, putting wood in the oven, moving around place to place, and really grew some popularity. It was, you know, when we talk about restaurants that start from other places that laid foundation, Legume, which merged with Butter Joint eventually, which really was a restaurant that more than almost any other restaurant in Pittsburgh, like changed Pittsburgh dining.
It's where all the chefs went.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the list of people that work there, front of house, back of house. It's extraordinary, actually. And Neil Blazin and Just Better were two of the people that were there. Neil was working front of house and just got into baking bread before the pandemic. Way before the pandemic, he was making sourdough at home. And that spun off into a curiosity about pizza. So he and Justin decided to like strike out on their own, do that, grew some popularity, really grew at their craft. And in 2017, when Lawrenceville was still affordable-ish, moved into Lawrenceville and really just like started honing in on their craft there. I mean, really, truly incredible stuff. They got some national attention.
Yeah, finalist for a James Beard Award.
Finalist for James Beard Award.
One of the best new restaurants, I think, Bon Appetit.
Yeah, they really got a lot of attention from the work that they did. And yeah, still slinging some of the top pizza in Pittsburgh, like some of the very best stuff. Pizza, if you can balance it right, you can go wild with your toppings. You can go seasonal with your toppings. I mean, the peach and corn is something that everyone looks forward to at your foot oven. But even in the winter, and a lot of these restaurants too have maintained relationships with Pittsburgh farmers that have helped the Pittsburgh farm community grow here. And they're like one of the strongest people as far as that goes.
Hey Yins, host Megan Harris here. Y'all know I love Pittsburgh. I love trying out a delicious new cocktail menu, recommending my favorite museum gift shops, and fussing about municipal waste. Here in Pittsburgh, we have range, people. And that feeling of deep connection with this city is why we created the CityCast Pittsburgh Neighbors program. Yes, CityCast Pittsburgh Neighbors is a way to support this podcast and our newsletter and keep them going, but it's also a way of getting more out of the city that you love. When you are a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor, you get all kinds of stuff. You get an early look at events coming up around town. You get to shout out local nonprofits or businesses that you love here on the podcast. And you get to join us for members-only experiences all around the city, like a private tour of Iron City Distilling or a happy hour at Trace Brewing. Hanging out with people just as nerdy and passionate and engaged as you are is a deeper way of living here in Pittsburgh. And you can make some new friends along the way. Join CityCast Pittsburgh Neighbors by going to membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. And if you join today, you get a CityCast Pittsburgh beanie. It's black, it's got white writing, it's nice and cozy for Pittsburgh's gray season. And you will be the first to know about our next batch of events. So coming up, we've got a holiday party with homemade cookies and a Santa Claus that's on December 19th. And if you're a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor, then you can be entered to win some gift cards if you give us a song request. And we've got some really fun stuff coming up in 2026. Learn about it all and get an invite early by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor at membership.citycast.fm.
And then, we get out of Lawrenceville and we look at a place like Scratch & Co., which talk about a place that reinvents itself all the time. Even its name started as Scratch Food and Beverage.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Going way, way back. So this is the eatery kind of there on the corner in Troy Hill. I've another one that I feel like I've been to so many different types of things there, like from really fancy dinners to like karaoke nights and like goodbye parties. I went to a wake there once. It just always has this kind of energy.
Yeah. And, they went through early on kind of like a chefy era that lasted for like quite a few of its like earlier years. You look at the list of like chefs that were there. Mm-hmm. My favorite was when Brandon Blumenfeld was there. He was just doing incredible stuff. He's a private chef now, but I just want to give Brandon a shout out because he's also a friend. Full disclosure now, he wasn't back then. But
we love talking about our friends on the show. How you're in good company.
But it had that era, and then I think during the pandemic, Don Mahaney he's a thinker. And he's an idea guy. And so he was one of the first people early on that was like, I'm going to get a permit. We're putting tables in the streets. We're going to do this. And that led to it being open more for breakfast, more for lunch. And all of a sudden it became what I think it really always needed to be from the start, which was like a neighborhood destination more than anything else. So now you go during the week, they have a kind of weekday tavern style menu. where you can stop by the bar and hang out and get a really good burger. And then on the weekends, they expand the menu. It also, for a few years, as we were kind of moving through like the end stages of the pandemic into the what the heck are we going to do years, it became a real nexus for pop-ups, and pop-ups that are now like starting to like
be real businesses, restaurants.
Yeah. And that was fun, you know, like that was it was a really smart move in an era where people were like, they want to dine out, but they're not sure. And also they're kind of like, ooh, but I like, you know, being at home as much. I think we're moving through that now and people like going out again, and to have pop-ups on Mondays and Tuesday and sometimes even Wednesday nights, it took a lot of pressure off of their kitchen. It brought people into the space, which meant that people could buy drinks from their bar. And it gave people an opportunity who maybe were like toying with stuff during the pandemic to like actually really show off the work that they're doing. You know, I think looking back on that, it was a huge service to the city. And I think a way that like really kept Scratch going through that era.
When I think that really speaks to that like thing we were talking about, like that, like our hospitality industry is a big family. And it literally is kind of like your uncle giving you a shot in the kitchen. You know?
Yeah. And it was great. And then, you know, the last place that I wrote about was Cucina Vitale, which blossomed in its 10th year. So it opened, Frank Vitale opened the place in 2015 on the South Side. He had overcome some like very, very serious struggles with substance addiction and channeled all of that into opening a restaurant where he used to work as a chef in this like very small, I think it was 35 seats, open kitchen, hands on every dish, like roots Italian restaurant that was just like a real, again, you know, like you look at these places that are counterpoints to like what's going on, you know, on Carson Street. And then you go into this place, it was kind of romantic. It was very sweet. This year he moved over to Green Tree into a restaurant that like, I think it seats like 165 or something.
That's just such an enormous jump from where he started.
Such a huge jump. You know, going from having a staff of, I think, fewer than 10 people to a staff of like 40 now. And now he's, you know, he doesn't have his hands on every dish, but he's really becoming a front of house presence. He comes out, you know, shakes some hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably a little expediting, a little quality control.
And it's working, though. It's great. It's really fun.
Hal, this is the only one I haven't actually personally been to. Not back in 2015, not now. Like, I'm excited that you have introduced me to something new yet again.
I'm glad. I mean, that's, you know, that's what I'm here for. It's the joy of my job. I remember I didn't know about this place until a few years ago. And I remember going in there and thinking like, oh, wow, this is cool. And also randomly, because it's Pittsburgh, I think the chef goes to the same yoga studio that I do, which is true.
I mean, are there any places that you wish had made it 10 years? Like maybe honorable mentions that like they're good, but they didn't make this top line list, or places that like didn't quite make it for whatever reason?
Yeah. I mean, the place that I wish was still around was Whitfield at Ace Hotel.
Yeah.
And the Ace Hotel bar. That place was so special. It signified that year what was going on, because it was a place that brought people to Pittsburgh, and people were like, I'm going to stay in the East End in East Liberty instead of staying downtown, which was cool. And it was a place that you could just drop in. You could go to the bar and order their great burger and hang out with friends. You could go to the restaurant. And I think losing that was a pandemic casualty. That was really sad. And I'm also so happy, just a little teaser for Best New Restaurants, that Hey Babe is in there now with Rob Hurst and Danielle Kane, who were people that really paid their dues and then opened a restaurant. So there's life in that space again, which is great.
Yeah.
But I miss that. And then a place that opened that year that I didn't get to write about, The Commoner, because that was the year that like I think we really thought hotel dining was going to take off.
There were so many restaurants that kind of, pop-up isn't the word because they're a tremendous amount of work. They're a huge investment, and they're usually quite nice, like a high dollar amount too to attend as a patron. But like, it seemed like there were a bunch, and now it does not seem that way anymore. Or at least they're getting a lot less fanfare maybe than they once did.
I think what happened is they just haven't really taken off as places where people in Pittsburgh are going to go to necessarily. They become amenities for hotels, and there's still good restaurants. I mean, The Commoner, not to talk about burgers more, but The Commoner's burger it's indulgent, it's expensive, but that is a good burger.
Okay.
But I think, you know, when that opened and when some places opened in subsequent years, there was this thing like, oh, like we're going to drop by the hotel and eat, or drop by the hotel and have a drink. And that hasn't quite happened. There's, you know, I'm hoping with Cork and Crust, which is going to open on the ground floor of the Oaklander probably early next year at this point. Kristen Butterworth is an amazing chef. I think Pittsburgh doesn't quite know her yet because she was at Lautrec down at Nemacolin, but like, what a draw for us to like have
Your
someone.
eyes are sparkling right now.
She is a chef who manages to be creative, upscale, and also like serves you things that you crave. So that's really exciting. So, you know, like the hotel thing hasn't really taken up, but the Commoner is still around. And then another place downtown. I think this was also in an era where like downtown, it's doing it.
I would argue that we might be back there again, or like at least the downtown partnership would like us to be.
And I think there is hope for that. You know, I think downtown seems to be more attached to I'm coming downtown for something and I want to eat while I'm here. And, you know, so much credit of that is owed to the Richard Duchance Restaurant Group. They opened Meat and Potatoes in 2011. And so Taco opened in 2015. And that was one, again, that it was like they hired incredible bartenders for that place. And the chef, Jay Brassicott, who's the chef of the Commoner now, was the chef there. And it was going to be like tacos, but like with a spin, with a twist, with everything made. And I think that caught on for a while. But again, with downtown, it seems like it didn't quite catch on in the same way post-pandemic. But it's still like a really incredible place to go. I mean, I still love Taco. It's still a good place for cocktails. And all the Duchance spots down there are still excellent.
Well, I guess as we step back and look forward, do you have any food predictions maybe for the next 10 years in Pittsburgh?
You know, it's hard to say because I think it's, you know, you anticipate looking far out. I would say like one thing that's exciting is when you look at like Chilla Thackeray, who was at the Vandal early on. She's opening a restaurant now, Titus, in Lawrenceville. So that's the things are expanding. And with Don Branduzzi and Roger Lee, who didn't open anything in this banner year of 2015, but has done a lot for Lawrenceville dining in general. So that's something that's exciting that's happening. You know, I hope that we continue to get people who are immigrating from other places in Pittsburgh. I think one of the things that's happened in the subsequent years is our immigrant-owned restaurant community has really developed in a way that's exciting. And I hope that continues. And I think it's going to be really exciting and interesting to see who decides, after working for years at the restaurants that either opened back then that are going to pull off now, or that we don't know about that are going to open more things. You know, I think we're going to see more things in different neighborhoods. Pittsburgh is such a neighborhood city. So you look at Allegheny West right now, which is really starting to blossom into a dining neighborhood.
Yeah, I absolutely see a future series for you, like just East Ohio Street alone.
Yeah, I mean, I work on this series that I've been working on for a few years called Eat Pittsburgh, that I go neighborhood by neighborhood by neighborhood. And Allegheny West is the next one coming up.
Sounds like a really tough job, Hal.
Yeah, I try to do my best to make it through. You know, 2015 was the first year that I officially also became a dining critic somewhere. That was the first year that I wrote for Pittsburgh Magazine as a dining critic. And so I feel really lucky to have like participated in this decade that has changed the way we eat Pittsburgh dining and to see what's happened like throughout these years. You know, it's exciting to be able to like be a participant in this.
Yeah. Well, I, for one, am very grateful for your observations because you always give me new ideas, or at least a new way to see a thing that I have eaten many, many times. We will link, of course, to your wonderful series in the Post-Gazette. Hal, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Yeah, what a pleasure.
That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you love the food and drink news, I can't recommend enough. Go into our website, pittsburgh.citycast.fm. We have a ton of stuff there. We share it in our newsletter. Of course, here on our podcast, it is all for free, but the free part comes with support. So we really appreciate it when folks become members and help keep us around. You can support us this week by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor at membership.citycast.fm and claim that beanie, the black one with the CityCast Pittsburgh logo, only available this week. That's membership.citycast.fm. We will be back tomorrow with more from around the city. We'll talk to you soon.
The other night at Spirit, I got recognized from someone who came up to me and was like, I know you, like you look familiar. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was about to say, like, I write about food, you know, I do some things like,
yeah, I
do that. And then she was like, you go to this yoga studio. And I was like, oh, shit, whoa, I'm getting recognized from going to yoga. That's a weird, hard turn.